Hello, and welcome to our final video of the semester, which will show you how to create your final project for class. Our final project will be an abstract watercolor painting that clearly conveys an emotion or emotions. You will do in-class activities this week to review the elements and principles of art and design, learn how artists can evoke emotions using certain kinds of lines, shapes, and colors, and prepare for your final painting by brainstorming and sketching. I've gathered my materials together, and before I begin any painting, I usually do some sketches so that I have an idea of what I want to paint before I actually begin. You will be doing this as well for your final. You will need to turn in 3 sketches by June 1st. All 3 sketches can be based on the same emotion, and you can just try different ways to show that, or you can do 1 sketch with 1 emotion per page. Then we'll decide together which one would be best for you to actually paint. I'm gonna just brainstorm a little bit first. So let me write down some things that might be interesting to me. Angry, happy, let's see, calm, serene. I think I'm gonna try some things with these 3. In your activities that you'll be doing this week, we'll be talking about the elements and principles of design. We'll also be talking about, in particular of the elements and principles of design, line, because line is very expressive and it carries a lot of emotion with it. Also, shapes can do that and color can do that. We're starting with line because that is the most fundamental element of any drawing or painting. Line is how most people usually begin because they sketch first. They sketch out their ideas. So if I were to make something that is angry, I would probably not do something like this, because that doesn't look very angry to me. It looks actually rather calm, and the curves of the lines have a rhythm to them that is graceful and calm. And when I think of anger, I'm thinking more pointed lines, also on the diagonal, because sometimes anger means actions. It could be arguing, or it could be, revenge, or another emotion tied in with anger that would be expressed in lines that show action or that look dangerous by having the points. So let me get going here, and I'm going to make some sketches. As I said, I'm going to do angry first. Then I'll do 1 happy, and I'll do 1 calm, serene. Okay? So here we go. Okay, this is my sketch for an angry abstract painting. We can see some of the elements and principles of art and design in this layout. For example, the composition of the sketch. It has a Z-type shape in terms of the composition. The largest thing that has emphasis on the page would be this large symbol, which is of an arrow, which is going downward. So this will be the emphasis of the painting, and then your eye should follow the zigzags down, down, down. Everything looks like it is going downward. The only thing that doesn't is this kind of turbulent line across the top, which this might be the anger of someone who is keeping it all inside. Right now, this horizontal line, which horizontal lines usually indicate serenity or calm, is kind of capping off all of these angry lines underneath. But because the horizontal line itself has a bit of turbulence in it, you can see that it's temporary. The anger is going to come through at some point, and the calm, serene line is beginning to break up and beginning to have a jaggedy appearance because it's being disturbed by what's happening underneath. So this, I think, is an interesting composition. It has a nice rhythm to it. I have definitely paid attention in terms of the layout to the emphasis on the page, the unity, how do things work together, proportion here. I have a variety of lines, and there is definitely movement. We have shapes. There is going to be negative space. We absolutely have line. And I will express the texture and value and unity that brings it all together when I paint. For the next composition, I'm going to try out some happier lines. So I might want to make them more rounded, also maybe have a little bit of flow. I associate happiness with love, so I might include as a symbol in here some heart shapes. I have this idea of expressing happiness as something that is just kind of bursting from your heart, you know, from a central location. Some rather, it could be flower-like. These are some rather blobby heart shapes, just kind of radiating out from the center here, looking exuberant and excited. Let's take a look at what serenity might look like. For me, serenity is simplicity. When things are calm, I would say definitely I would use some horizontal lines here, maybe even some shapes that look soothing. If I make a horizontal line that's kind of rounded at the ends, maybe, give that a try. Maybe there are some things that I have to encounter along the way, so I might put some shapes on top of this, but they will be very rounded also. And because everything is calm, I want them to be all similar in size and position. And maybe I'll kind of go on top of these a little bit. And even do some kind of wavy cloud-like shapes. I don't know. Interesting. Okay. Sometimes when you are just brainstorming, sketching, another idea will come to you. As I started to do this, I realized, well, maybe I don't want that. Maybe I just want the whole thing to be these kind of cloud-like shapes. So what would that look like? And maybe for variety, I could break them up a little bit. They'll be long enough to have some kind of stability. I don't want them to look too discordant or jaggedy. I still want this to look calm. But I kind of like them kind of interweaving with one another as well. And definitely the idea of just kind of lying on your back in the sunshine, looking at some peaceful clouds drifting by, that absolutely conveys a sense of calm to me. Okay, I'm gonna get ready to paint right now. I have some water, and I have my paintbrush. I've pulled some colors out of my watercolor set, and there's something I want to talk to you about that goes a little bit deeper into color theory, and that is this concept. I know you have all heard of warm colors and cool colors, and you think of warm colors as being, you know, maybe reds or oranges or yellows. However, within these designations, they're also warm and cool. So yes, reds are a warm color, but you can have a warm red and a cool red. For example, if a red has more yellow in it, and it's tending towards being more of an orange red, then it would be considered a warm red. If you have a red that has more blue in it, then that might be considered a cooler red. I'm going to keep the warm red and not do the cooler red right now, okay? Same with these yellows. Look at the yellows here. This yellow has a lot, well, it has a lot of actual green paint in it because I mixed it in the pan, which is a no-no, and you should not do because it kind of ruins your watercolors. But I did. I mixed it in the pan instead of mixing it on a palette. But even before I mixed in this green, this particular yellow definitely has a cooler tone to it than this yellow. And that's because this yellow, even without what I mixed in here, has more green in it, all right? And this one has a little bit more red in it. The same thing goes for blues. You can have a warm blue as opposed to a cool blue. So not everything fits into a neat category of, okay, all reds are warm colors, all blues are cool colors. So there are subtle distinctions that you can take a look at to even further define the mood that you're going to create with your painting. I'm going to make some puddles as our video that we watched while we were making our, move this over here, while we were making our graduation cards and you were learning about value. The teacher in the video showed why it's important to make some puddles, as she called them, off to the side on your palette, as opposed to just applying the pigment right to the paper. And this way you can control the amount of water that you're going to get for the different values. And that is another requirement of your project, to show 3 different values of each color that you use. So I'm making the first puddle very concentrated. Then I'm going to add more water, quite a bit more, to make a less concentrated puddle, and this will be my medium tone. And finally, over here, I'm going to do the lightest color of my reds. Okay. So you can set up your palette before you begin. And if you don't have a manufactured palette, you can use the inside lid of the watercolor paints that you received. You could also use a dinner plate, as long as you wash it and it's okay with your parents. You could also use a paper plate or any kind of a surface that you can just mix the paint on before you get it onto your paper. So first, my very concentrated yellow. Okay. Then a bit more water for my medium tone yellow. And last, I will do a very light value of the yellow. Okay, I've assembled quite a different color palette for angry. I have a rust kind of color, bluish purple, gold, and a green, and then I'm going to accent with some black. But these are not happy, joyful colors. They look a bit somber because they are darker. Also, when you're thinking about which emotion you're trying to convey, think about the subtleties of those emotions. When you think of anger, you might think, red and black and just, rage. But there's also a smoldering kind of anger, and that's what I'm going to try here to create. Well, that certainly took a turn. Sometimes when you paint, certain things will begin to suggest themselves to you as you paint. I still have the kind of back and forth V, Z type shapes going on here, but it's definitely not my original sketch, which is fine. Your sketches are a jumping off place for you. This is an abstract painting, and sometimes you just have to see where the paint takes you. I think I'm finished with rage now and anger, and I am ready to move on to calmness and serenity. I have some fresh, clean water and a brand new color palette. You can see here I'm using some green, I'm using a little bit of a light purple, and I'm going to use some different values of the blue. So with this one, I want to go very light with a lot of water and keep it very light and easy, especially after finishing the anger rage one, because rage seems kind of messy, doesn't it? Let's just be more controlled with this, but absolutely calm. Okay, I will paint and then we will come back and talk about it after. That finishes off my third painting example, which for me conveys peace and serenity with cool blues and greens in a variety of different values. I hope you also noticed some of the different watercolor techniques I used throughout these demos. Wet on wet, wet on dry, dry on wet, dry on dry. Also lifting out paint to change the value, particularly on the happier, lighter paintings. And now it's your turn. Please take your time. These should be enjoyable, slow, and meditative paintings, not a race to finish first. Although time-lapse makes it appear that I did my paintings quickly, it actually took a while to paint the 3 demonstrations, and I took breaks in between. And if I were turning these in for a grade or doing these for a client, I would probably do a few more drafts of each one, because sometimes you have to see the art before you can decide what works and what doesn't. You have 2 weeks to complete this final. I really hope you enjoy doing them, and I look forward to seeing what you come up with.